Hi, everyone. We'll get started in just 1 minute here. Happy back to school. Give people a few more minutes to join and then get started. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'll try to monitor the lobby and more people join. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, good. You can hear me? You cannot hear me? Okay. I got paranoid for a second. Thank you. Always trying to figure out the new technology. All right, so thank you guys again for joining. Today we're going to be talking about the new Governor's Youth Volunteer Award. This is an initiative from the Iowa Commission on Volunteer Service in partnership with the Governor's Office. If you're not familiar with Volunteer Iowa, we are housed in the Department of Health and Human Services. We are a state agency and we work to advance volunteer initiatives across the state. As I mentioned, I will be recording this and sharing the recording and the PowerPoint after this meeting to everyone who's registered. I will also be sharing some more resources and information about this program for you to have on record. If you guys have any questions, you should be able to click raise your hand function. We'll also have time at the end of this, and feel free to use the chat. So, with that, today what we're going to be discussing is the award and how it's come to be, learn how to participate in it, and then we will also be talking about authentic youth volunteer experiences that we hope this awards program will help to facilitate. So again, if you're not familiar with Volunteer Iowa, our mission is really to strengthen volunteering and civic engagement across the state. We do that through a number of initiatives like AmeriCorps, if you're familiar with that. We also do service learning programming. Iowa Mentor is one of our programs. Disaster relief is another. So really any effort that engages Iowans through service is sort of housed under us. We work a lot with nonprofits and community partners to increase their capacity. A lot of our work is very kind of high level capacity building. Sometimes we'll have people call and be like, do you have volunteers for this event? And as much as I wish we did, that's not really our wheelhouse. Our work is more to help organizations learn to more effectively engage volunteers. This initiative is actually an expansion of the Governor's Volunteer Awards, which is an existing program that we have. We've been administering it for 40 plus years. We also have the Hall of Fame, which is Iowa's most prestigious volunteer award. These are all initiatives that anyone can apply for or qualify for. And the youth service one that we are now launching is really just dedicated for those high school youth to encourage more young people to engage in service. But if you would, if you're interested in any of the other volunteer awards that we have, I recommend you check out our website. And I also just want to highlight that our work in youth service is started about 5 years ago. We started to dedicate more time to really increasing civic engagement for those under 25. And through those efforts, we've been really nationally recognized as one of the top states for youth volunteering. We've received the Harris-Wilford Common Good Award, which is a national recognition for youth service. Which it's kind of, I feel like we're bragging, but I want to emphasize that this, all of our work and our efforts with this is coming from a place of real research and insight, and not just like us randomly deciding to create an award. But there is some insights informing it. And some of those insights that I wanted to spotlight is post-pandemic, we've actually seen our volunteer rates increasing. So actually in 2019, about 52% of Iowans volunteered. And then in 2024, we were back up to 55%. So we were actually up higher than pre-pandemic levels of volunteering, which is really exciting. But then on the same survey that we've done, we realized that volunteer rates for younger Iowans has dropped to 47%, which is down from 57% in 2019. So it's interesting to us that more Iowans in general are volunteering, but younger Iowans are not. And this award is, again, one of the ways that we hope to motivate more younger Iowans to get back to volunteering and to be engaged in service. I think, you guys as educators can probably all understand and relate to maybe young people feeling disconnected and the impact of the pandemic, and we're seeing that here in service as well. One of the surveys when we were figuring out how to create this award and one ways to motivate youth that we launched, and we had Iowa students complete, we asked them what motivates them to volunteer. A majority of them said the joy of helping others, while the rest said college admissions and awards and recognition. I tend to think the college admissions and awards is actually the #1 motivator. And when we got into focus groups and talked with them, they did say that programs like Silver Cord or scholarships is usually what opened the door for young people to start volunteering, but they continued to serve and give back to their community because they enjoyed their time doing it and because they discovered the joy of helping others, which is, again, another reason why we've decided to create this award, to hopefully open those doors for more young people to start serving in their communities. And, I'm sure you all know some of the benefits of volunteering and why this matters, but we just wanted to highlight that through youth service, some of the things that we recognize is young people who volunteer are 19% more likely to graduate from college than their peers and 23% more likely to be employed. We see academic improvement in reading, mathematics, history, and science. At-risk behaviors decreases. They're 70% less likely to initiate drug use and 27% less likely to initiate alcohol use. Volunteers actually just live longer. It increases your physical health as well as your mental health. And specifically for young people, we really see service as a pathway for them to gain career experience and explore different interests and skills that they may have to help figure out, their own personal identity and who they would like to be as they enter the workforce. We also know that if you start volunteering younger, the more likely you are to continue to volunteer and become leaders in your community. It actually increases community connection as well. So young people who volunteer in their community are more likely to stay there and to become leaders in that community. And then obviously the community benefits as well, because we have increased volunteers able to support our work and address critical community needs. We also have youth voice being represented. So we are making sure the needs that we are responding to are also reflecting the needs of our young people. And for schools that encourage youth participation and engagement with community partners, we see more increased connections with the community, more transparency. Those schools also can help provide 21st century learning skills to their students, such as collaboration, teamwork, creativity, and also just more increased participation. Those students feel a lot more valued and feel like they have adults as well as other students in their lives that they can connect with. We actually launched this version, a pilot version of it last fall. So we partnered with the Waukee Community School District to test this program to see how it would work, what adjustments needed to be made. And through that, we had 27 seniors across their school district complete it. And each of those seniors altogether raised $185,000 and $185,520 in volunteer impact hours, considering the volunteer impact rate of $30.92 an hour. So really a high level of impact going back into that community through these young people volunteering and meeting the requirements of this program. So now I'm going to talk about the program. This is going to be maybe a little bit more logistical, less inspiring, but as I mentioned in our email, this is a new program that is recognizing high school students who make meaningful contributions in their community. This is going to be a statewide program with hopes of creating this uniform standard for youth volunteerism across the state. And in doing that, really making sure we are promoting authentic, meaningful service to young people, promoting community partnerships, and launching youth-led initiatives that helps develop their character. The different insights that inform this award, we've been working on this for about 3 years now. So we've had lots of different surveys and discussions with different schools, with Silver Cord programs, if you're familiar with that, with young people themselves. And during these conversations, a couple of things stood out. One of those is really needing or young people really emphasizing a need for having sort of like a volunteer counselor or coordinator at their school. And Volunteer Iowa is obviously very skilled in providing services like that. So how can we elevate school staff to also utilize us as a resource and then equip them with the knowledge they need to be that resource? Young people really emphasized the need to help find opportunities to serve, and we have a statewide volunteer database called Get Connected that can be used for that, and also partner with various volunteer centers to help find volunteer opportunities. In terms of getting people to serve, they really emphasized a need to hear real life stories of other young people volunteering to make it seem tangible. So through this award program, we've integrated an essay component, which allows us to capture those stories and then promote. And across the various Iowa schools that offer some sort of volunteer incentive, 142 was the average hour of service requirements for those schools, which actually aligns really closely with what Volunteer Iowa believes. We have a program called What's Your 50, where we encourage people to volunteer 50 hours a year. If every Iowan volunteered that, we would have over 1 billion new services and resources available through the state. Right now, the number of hours typically volunteered is about 34 per year. So our logic is, if we're recommending 50 hours of service a year, across 3 years, that's 150 hours of service, and then allowing time in that 4th year for essay completion. So about the award, again, some of this might be more repeat information, but this is an award that will be given to graduating seniors at any Iowa school, public or private. If you're a homeschool program, they are also eligible to participate in this program if they're a part of a dual enrollment program. There is no cost to participate in this program. That is different than some of our other awards programs. Typically, the Governor's Volunteer Award does have a cost associated with it for more like logisticals, like printing materials and covering mailing costs. But we have removed that from this program, so that's not a barrier. Our program goals, like I said, is to create this uniform recognition program, since so many schools have different forms of service recognition in some shape. We realize the value of having all of that kind of consistent. So, if a young person is applying for college in the state of Iowa or applying for a job, those programs will be able to recognize and actually know what the Governor's Youth Volunteer Award means. It has that consistency. It also, our model is informed again by best practices that helps ensure impact is reached fully and potential is fully reached. So we know that young people are really reaping the same benefits from it, and hopefully encouraging accessibility. And it's also just a great way to, give young people another kind of recognition for what they do and boost. Some schools also don't have an existing program, so we hope this can kind of be something that encourages them to implement it at their school. So the core requirements is students have to volunteer 150 plus hours prior to graduation. We are having the hours count starting the summer after 8th grade. I have had some programs reach out to see if students could volunteer earlier than this. I'm open to having that conversation. So if you're interested in that, just shoot me an email and we can chat. I think we want to encourage continued service in high school year specifically, so that can inform their essay. But we're also not opposed to if young people want to start volunteering sooner and there's opportunities, that's great. And then in addition to the service requirements, they are required to write a reflective essay, basically essentially about 1 page, addressing 3 prompts, asking them to reflect on the service that they've completed. Where did they volunteer? What did they do? How was the overall experience? What did they enjoy? What did they not like? And then what future plans do they have to continue to be civically engaged? That could be other volunteer roles that they're interested in. It could be career pathways they may be going on, or specific skills they've learned. When we reflect on our service experience, we're more likely to continue to serve, and it also helps us see the impact of our ways a lot more. So this is a really important component of this program. So the award components that are included is every student who completes those requirements and is submitted will receive a digital certificate signed by the governor of Iowa. Additionally, they will receive a spotlight on our website. You can actually go and see that now. That has a list of the names of students and where they're located that have completed this. Right now, it's just the WAKI programs. We also host a statewide ceremony every summer, typically in June or July. This is a photo from the ceremony with the governor and one of the WAKI students. So this statewide ceremony is in combination with the existing Governor's Volunteer Award. So we are hoping to recognize students from every school that is a part of this. If we did that, that would be a lot of students, though. That would be a very long ceremony to do. So what we are planning for this program is every student will receive the certificate, but we are asking schools to select service valedictorians, about 1 to 3 young people who would be the representative of the school and the program to actually attend the ceremony. Those students then will receive a group volunteer award on behalf of the entire program and a photo with the governor. It operates very similar to like a graduation ceremony. Their name's called out, they walk on the stage, they take their photo. And how those students are selected, we are allowing the schools to determine that. Some recommendations is, the students who volunteered the most number of hours, reviewing their essays and feeling particularly moved. You could have students do a vote. We're really flexible with that. It's just unfortunate right now we aren't able to have all the students attend, but I'm hoping if this program gains traction and grows, we may be able to have a specific ceremony for just the young people. Right now, the ceremony is typically held in Des Moines, but depending, on whoever the governor is, we have had regional ceremonies in the past. So we will also keep you guys informed on the dates and locations for those. And then we are also supplying all of the programs with a downloadable poster with the students' essay and the reward that you can utilize at graduation. If the student has a graduation party, could be something like that, or a recognition for you to share on social media or print and have in your school as well. We're also offering mailed certificates if you would like. That's an option on our forms. We just ask that you fill that out and then we can coordinate that with you. So this program is not supposed to be a replacement for existing Silver Cord programs. We want programs that already have something to feel like they can still offer that to their students. If they'd like to replace it, they can as well, but we see it more as something that complements it, kind of provides a standardization to recognition programs. For example, WAKI has a Silver Cord program as well as is implementing this. And that way we kind of create a tiered program. So, you can receive this. If you volunteer this many hours, you can get this cord at graduation. But then if you do this and then also write an essay, you can get this additional honor. So that's kind of a nice way to recognize students at various increments of service. And then we also just hope that it can be a source for, utilizing our tracking systems, our databases to find volunteers and to find nonprofits, and just really make the process of service easier. We don't want it to be harder or an addition for you. And then for schools that don't have a program in place currently, then this is a great way to just offer something to your students to recognize their service. And again, we just kind of recommend implementing our strategies, working with us to, figure out what works best for your school and your students. And then we're happy to kind of help build the program around what best meets your needs. So at Volunteer Iowa, we're sort of formed around 3 different types of service experiences that we encourage and would see as allowable for this program. We emphasize awareness as a form of service. So this is an attempt to educate someone on their behavior and hopefully create positive change through that. So this could be students creating educational posters about recycling. It could be doing a research assignment and hosting a town hall or a community event about an issue. It could be going to speak to your city council and lobbying for a specific change, or your school board. So this is much more kind of focused on research and analysis and advocacy and education. Direct service is probably the form of service students are most familiar with. This is, when we actually use our time and our skills to address a need. So this could be face-to-face interactions, maybe providing a meal to someone at a food bank or a food pantry. It could be stocking shelves at a thrift store. It could be tutoring younger students or teaching seniors how to use technology, sort of that face-to-face interaction. And then philanthropy is when we're thinking more about organizing a fundraiser of some kind. So that could be, hosting a food drive, actually hosting a marathon of some kind or a walk to, gain financial gain of some kind. Penny Wars was something big at my school that we would do to raise funds. It could also be, donations of specific goods. It doesn't have to be cash. And then we also are really highly encouraging skilled volunteering. So allowing young people to do social media marketing campaigns for a nonprofit to shed awareness of their services, or doing website development or technology support, and really providing them the chance to gain those skills. And if you have like a work-based learning program, a service learning program at your school, leveraging that and really including nonprofits as part of those organizations that students work with, so they can gain those experiences and do service through those work pathways. For service delivery methods, we have kind of 2 that we are really emphasizing. The first being volunteering with a community partner. This is, again, the pretty traditional way that we think of volunteering. So a young person could go serve at a club, a nonprofit, a church. They show up, they're assigned a task, they complete it, they go home. That's great to volunteer, and we have resources, like I mentioned, Get Connected, to help individuals find volunteer opportunities near them. One thing that we're also really encouraging through this to make the experience more meaningful for young people is we do have some reflection questions. We do have an interest survey that they can take, and it will actually match them with specific organizations or areas of interest that may align more with what their passions are and potentially, what pathways they want to go down in the future. So that just kind of elevates it, so it's a little bit more in alignment with them, what their interests are. And then our other option that we have is a youth-led service project or a service learning project. We know a lot of rural communities may not have places near them for young people to volunteer. So in this pathway, young people are actually sort of creating their own experience to volunteer. They are investigating an issue that they're interested in, creating a plan to address it, and then actually implementing it. Through this, the time that young people spend researching it and planning it can count towards their the requirements for this award. We can work closely with schools to help facilitate, like having an adult check in on that process, or Volunteer Iowa staff is also happy to be that resource for students. This is something we've been doing for a few years now, and it's really cool to kind of see the way students provide their voice to different issues and sort of become like entrepreneurs and figuring out needs in their community and addressing that accordingly. And this is kind of the steps that I talked about of if a young person is interested in doing a youth-led service project, what that could look like. So we also kind of encourage that reflection piece, which is part of the essay, and then having young people share out what they did with others as part of that as well. So an example project that someone could do for this would be a student surveys their grade level about attitudes towards schools, and they identify ways to promote positivity. They partner with their school guidance counselor to promote positive thinking and write affirmation cards to leave in student lockers. So this is a student who they realize, we need to increase student morale here. So my community, the organization that I'm going to partner with is actually my school. The service that I'm going to do is going to hopefully increase mental well-being. And the action is writing those cards and leaving them in student lockers. So kind of a great way to have young people still participate in service and be engaged without actually, needing to go out into the very far into the community. We're pretty flexible on what services count and do not count. Our biggest kind of red flags is paid work. If you're getting paid for it, you're not really volunteering. But that does include AmeriCorps or Youth Corps members. If you know what those words mean, then that's good. If don't worry about it. But essentially national service members. We don't count babysitting for family or friends either. We kind of see that as a form of paid work. Music or athletic practice that they have does not count either, as this is sort of an activity or hobby that they're already engaged with. Religious worship and rituals do not count. You can serve at a church. That's totally fine. We just cannot have religious instruction as part of that. The travel time to and from a service site does not count. Fundraising for personal benefit would also not count. And court-mandated service, we allow students to collect 10 hours of crossover there, but an additional time that they would maybe have for court-mandated service would not count towards the program. But we don't want to penalize them more than they already have, so we are counting some of the hours. So for you as the schools, this is kind of the next step. If you're like, yeah, this sounds great, this is something we want to do, we're going to go through each of the steps for joining the program. I think it looks more intimidating than it actually is. But our first step is kind of what we've started to do now. So essentially say, yep, we want to do this. So we recommend schools designate a school coordinator to be someone who's responsible for this. That could be a principal, a guidance counselor. It could be a teacher. If you have like student council or National Honor Society, it could be one of those individuals. This person is just essentially who I harass with emails with updates. So that's the main role of them. And then as well as, telling students about this opportunity. We do then have a registration form that I ask schools to fill out by September 30th to just indicate that they are on board to participate. Again, that lets me know who to send emails to, and I will share the link for that. Just because you sign up does not mean you actually have to go through with it. Maybe you sign up and then none of your students complete the requirements. That's totally fine. It's not binding or anything. It just helps us to kind of have in our minds what we're expecting and, again, who to reach out to. A component that we are requiring with schools is to complete a training. This is different than what we're doing now. This training is more specifically in alignment with youth volunteer best practices. It won't be very long. It'll only be about 30 minutes, and it can be completed asynchronously, but it will provide insights to those school coordinators on ways to help young people find volunteer opportunities, how to do the youth-led service project experience if they're interested in it, and to find resources that are really relevant to connecting young people with kind of aligning their interest with their volunteer opportunities. So we hope it'll be really meaningful for schools as they implement this. Then we'll share the materials with you all to review. Let me know if you have questions. Each school, we actually have no requirements for how hours are tracked. We have practices that you can use. We do have a template form you can use. Get Connected, the statewide volunteer database, also allows you to track hours in there. But we actually don't have requirements for what you do. So figuring out what works best for your school and your students and utilizing that is totally fine. The only information you will have to submit to us later is the name of the students, the number of hours they completed, their essay, and then, oh, good to know. I did not know that the title changed. Thank you. I just saw that in the chat. And then Yeah, the number of hours and then their email. So nothing, you won't actually have to submit like where they volunteered and all of that to us. And then we do recommend you join Get Connected if you haven't yet, because that is a great place to find volunteer opportunities and encourage your students to join as well so they can log their hours in there. And it does have a mobile app, which I know can be really appealing for a lot of younger students. So I'll put this in an email follow-up as well, but this is the link to register for the application if you're interested. I can put the link in the chat instead of the QR code because it's hard to do both. There we go. So then after you sign up to join the program, really the role is just on the school to get students, engaged with it. And to do that, yes, the United Way program feeds into the statewide volunteer database. So the same one that the United Way has feeds into ours. Get Connected is through them. So if you're already using that, then perfect. You're already on board with it. So just spreading awareness of this to your students, looking for volunteer opportunities, sharing those out to students. Obviously, the essay is a component for this as well, so making sure students are aware of that and providing them with the requirements for completing that. And then if you have any young people who are doing youth-led service projects, checking in with them if that's the role that you've decided to coordinate with. For documentation, again, this is sort of up to you for how you want to collect it. I just mentioned Get Connected. I'm happy to kind of do a walkthrough with that as well. We'll also go through it in that training, but verify student hours are served, collect their student essays. Our deadline for having everything submitted to us is April 20th. So I would recommend setting an internal deadline, maybe earlier in April, for actually receiving those essays and making sure they meet the requirements. I have had, it's unfortunate that the school year won't be done by then. So if you have students who are really close to that 150, but maybe they haven't hit it by that April, but they would by the end of the school year, still go ahead and submit them. And we can kind of work with that and be flexible with that. But we really want to make sure students get this honor and have everything potentially by graduation, or if you have senior night of some kind, a scholarship night. So that's why we're awarding it a little bit earlier. But we're happy to work with you if you have students who are near there but haven't completed it yet, and graduation maybe, there's still about a month in there that they could finish those hours prior to graduation. And then the final step would just be to submit that information to us. So like I said, it's a list of student names, hours served, and their emails by April 20th. And then we want to see the essays, we want to read them. Unfortunately, I know technology is not super friendly with the government and with schools, so we're still kind of figuring out the best way to collect that, if it's a Google Drive link or a Dropbox link or just an email. So be flexible with me as we get to that point of the best way to submit that. But as of now, I'm planning on a Microsoft form and then a Dropbox link for the essays. And then it will be on up to the schools to determine who's going to be attending that ceremony and selecting those students. And then we'll share out information about when and where that ceremony is. And even if students, are only the service valedictorians are able to attend this ceremony, any of the students would be allowed to go and watch at least and be recognized that way of some kind. Yes, so that's a great question, Amy. If a student gets the hours and turns in the essay, it is a given that they earned this. I will not be going through and approving things additionally. It's pretty much a guarantee. Yeah. And then this is the link for the submission, which you really don't need to worry about too much now, but I will share it in the chat just if you want to take a look at it. I know how I like to be really prepared and I want to know what I'll have to submit later. So there's a link to that. And then we do have sort of a student pathway for them to kind of consider if this is something they've decided to do, just sort of guidance on how to get started with it. So at the start of their high school career, figuring out what community needs they're interested in, how they want to volunteer in the community. Yes, I will share the slideshow. and then start tracking those hours. Like I said, we recommend around 50 each year. Then in 11th and 12th grades, if they've started volunteering, maybe looking into more leadership roles at those organizations, maybe implementing a youth-led service project, or really just continuing to volunteer. And then their senior year, we want them to finalize those hours, work on writing the reflected essay, and then submit all of the required documents to the school coordinator by that internal deadline. And then they will receive their certificate, add it to their applications and resumes, and attend the statewide ceremony. Something Volunteer Iowa is also going to offer, we just haven't figured out the dates yet, is a webinar on how to turn your service experience into a college application or resume building piece. We've offered this before of like kind of how to write that and how to discuss it and interview it. So that will also be shared with those students who complete this on how to talk about it on their resume and really leverage it. So these are just some quotes from the Waukee students who completed this past school year that I think really kind of show the impact of this in their essay. I think Nisha's quote that says, "What stays with me most is not the hours or recognition, but the ability to be able to perceive the world in a lens shaped by these experiences." I think that's a really nice quote to think of, beyond just this award and what they're doing, but really kind of seeing that larger scale impact. And all of the students, it was really amazing to read the essays. So, really, really lovely stuff there. So you guys already have my email, but I also wanted to share my phone number. Avery Horner, who's not here today, is also a staff member who's helping work on this. The resource folder QR code there will take you to all of our documents related to this, but I will also send them out in an email after this. Sort of the next steps here would be, figuring out if this is something you're interested in at your school. If so, completing that registration form. And then when I send this recording and slideshow, I will also send our implementation manual. I'll say it's probably, again, a little bit more intimidating than it looks, but I really try to answer as many questions and provide as many resources as I can. So I will send that to you, and it will go over everything in more in depth even than this call has. And in it, we also have an appendix. So that has sample essays in there for your students. It has sample tracking hour documentations, just a number of resources to utilize. And then I also have a student guide as well that you can print and actually give to your students that kind of walks through the process and everything for them as well. I'm also happy to set up individual calls or visit your school and talk about the program as well. This will be the first year of doing it statewide and launching it, so there may be some learning curves with that as well. But we are really, really excited to do it and to have students feel recognized and engaged. And then I will also send this in an email, but highly recommend checking out and get connected if you haven't yet. That Galaxy Digital is the website that is housed on there. The thing that I think is really cool about it is you can actually generate an organization report. So you can see like, this is how many hours in total all of our volunteers or all of our students have done over this many years. And it also generates an economic value. So that's really cool to have that information to just show the impact your students have on the community. This is unrelated, but I also want to share, we do have 2 upcoming funding opportunities open to school districts who are interested in service learning, if that's something you offer at your school or are interested in offering it. I just wanted to put that plug in there since I have educators here, but those will be coming out soon. If you're subscribed to our newsletter for Volunteer Iowa, I highly recommend that because that's where we post all of our funding opportunities. But all of the service learning projects that students could potentially complete through one of these projects would also, those hours would count towards this award. So kind of a nice way to, encourage that service as well. So more information to come about that. Okay, that is everything I have. So if people have questions, now's a great time to ask. And again, I will share this information out and can also talk, offline or set up a call. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but if anyone has questions, feel free. Otherwise, you can have some time back in your day. Thank you.